I had always believed in second chances. I had always thought forgiveness could be a powerful tool, a way to heal, to move forward, and to salvage relationships that had faltered. But nothing could have prepared me for the day my wife, Mariam, thought she could confess her betrayal and expect forgiveness so casually, as if her guilt could be washed away with a few words. That day, I realized some betrayals deserve more than forgiveness. They deserve exposure, reflection, and a lesson in humility she would never forget. It began one quiet evening. I was sitting at the kitchen table, sorting through some paperwork, when Mariam walked in, looking unusually nervous. Her hands fidgeted with the hem of her shirt, and her eyes avoided mine. I sensed immediately that something was wrong. I need to tell you something, she began, her voice hesitant, as though she were testing the waters before diving into deep, dangerous currents. I looked up, calm but alert. Go on, I said. I had learned long ago that composure is the first weapon against manipulation. She took a deep breath and confessed. She had been seeing someone else, she said, for months. At first, she tried to frame it as a mistake, something that had just happened in a moment of weakness, something she regretted immediately. Her words were rehearsed, her tone pleading. She looked at me, expecting perhaps that I would nod, sigh, and embrace her forgiveness, but I didn't, not even close. Instead, I sat there silently, letting her words settle like stones in a still pond. The air grew heavy. Mariam's confident facade began to crumble as she searched my face for the reaction she had expected, a flicker of anger, a plea for understanding, perhaps even a faint glimmer of mercy. There was nothing, just quiet. You think you can confess and it erases everything? I asked finally, my voice calm, measured, but carrying an unmistakable edge. You think saying the words, I cheated, is enough to recenter life, as if nothing happened. Her lips trembled. I didn't want to hurt you, she whispered. I thought maybe if I confessed, we could move past this. I held up a hand, stopping her mid-sentence. No, not maybe, not thought. You cheated. You lied. You betrayed trust that I never gave lightly, and now you expect me to just forgive and forget? Her eyes widened as the reality of my words sank in. She realized immediately that this was not going to be easy, that her casual expectation of forgiveness had collided head-on with the weight of accountability. And that's when I decided that silence and observation weren't enough. She needed to understand the consequences, not through anger, but through humiliation and exposure, in a way that left no room for rationalization. I asked her to step aside. I told her I had arranged for a few friends and family members to come over, people who knew us, who cared for both of us. When they arrived, I had Mariam confess, fully to everyone present. Every lie, every secret meeting, every hidden message laid bare before witnesses who had no stake in her manipulation or her excuses. The room was tense, the air thick with shock. Mariam's eyes darted around, panic rising as she realized that the carefully controlled narrative she had rehearsed was unraveling in real time. She tried to interject, to explain, to soften her confession, but I wouldn't allow it. I let the truth, raw and unfiltered, dominate the moment. Friends gasped. Family members exchanged glances of disbelief. Mariam's proud, confident posture crumpled under the weight of exposure. I watched her closely, letting the impact of humiliation sink in. This was not revenge born of anger, it was justice born of clarity. She needed to see the consequences of her actions in their full dimension. Do you understand now? I asked, my voice calm but firm. This is not just about your guilt. It's about the way you've undermined trust, the way you've treated me as if my feelings and our life together were trivial. You thought confession would erase that, but it doesn't. Exposure does. Humiliation does. Reality does. She couldn't speak. Tears streamed down her face, her hands trembling. She had expected forgiveness, a soft landing, a chance to start anew without consequence. Instead, she faced a mirror she could not escape, a reflection of betrayal amplified by the presence of everyone she had hoped would sympathize. Over the next few days, Mariam tried to apologize privately, to negotiate, to seek understanding. But I remained composed, reminding her that this was not about punishment for the sake of revenge. It was about teaching her that actions have consequences. The lesson had been delivered, and it was clear, undeniable, and unmissable. Friends and family who had witnessed the confession later told me they had never seen someone so publicly humbled, yet so fully accountable. Mariam had thought she could control the narrative with a simple confession. Instead, she was left to face the reality she had ignored. Betrayal leaves scars not just on those who are wronged, but on the betrayer. When the truth cannot be denied, I reflected often on that evening. The power of calm, deliberate exposure had been far greater than any confrontation filled with anger or threats could have been. By allowing her to confess in the presence of witnesses, by letting the weight of her own choices fall squarely on her shoulders, I had transformed her expectation of forgiveness into a lesson in accountability and humility. And yet, even as I watched her humiliation unfold, I felt a strange sense of clarity. I have learned that some betrayals are too severe for casual forgiveness. Some confessions are too convenient for second chances. Some lessons need to be felt, experienced, and remembered in a way that leaves no doubt about the consequences of actions. Mariam's face, pale and shaken, haunted the days that followed. But the memory of her expecting forgiveness, only to be met with exposure and humiliation, was a reminder to me of the power of composure, strategy, and clarity. Revenge need not be loud. It need not be physical. It can be surgical, precise, and devastatingly effective when truth is wielded as a weapon. By the end of that week, Mariam had no room left for denial. The betrayals she had hoped to gloss over with words had become a reality she could not ignore. And I had remained calm throughout, proving that strength is not always about aggression, it is about control, awareness, and the courage to let truth do the work. In the end, the humiliation was not just a punishment, it was a revelation. It was a mirror, showing Mariam the depth of her mistakes, the impact of her deceit, and the futility of expecting forgiveness where it was not earned. And for me, it was a reaffirmation that betrayal deserves reckoning, not convenience, exposure, not excuses, and clarity, not comfort. That day, when Mariam confessed thinking she would be forgiven, she learned a lesson she would never forget. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I simply let the truth speak, and it humiliated her far more effectively than anything I could have done in anger. Betrayal has consequences, and sometimes the most unforgettable lesson is delivered not through rage, but through the quiet, undeniable power of exposure.